Next one then. Please stop me. This is not a monologue. Please stop me if you have any questions. So we're looking at 76. 76 looks way more complicated. It's not. Notice that I don't prefer, but it's up to you, I don't prefer multiplying top and bottom by something. I dislike that method, but I will accept it if you want to use it and if you know what you're doing. Good. The least common denominator in the numerator. The least common denominator in the numerator.
The x plus 1?
Yes, there is no other. So remember, we have to multiply this by x plus 1. So what do we have in the numerator here? What should I write?
What? 1 minus x.
So x plus 1 minus x. Excellent. We are looking at the denominator now. What is the least common denominator in the denominator? And of course we have to write that x does not equal negative 1 and x not equal 0 for sure, because these are two denominators. They cannot be 0. Good. What next? What is the least common denominator in the denominator? Right, so there is only one. Very good. So I need an x here. So I have 2x. Now careful. Negative has to be distributed to both terms. Here, there was only one. But here there are two terms. So I have to write minus x but plus 1. Good. I will simplify. These two go away, x minus x. The fraction in the numerator is 1 over x plus 1. I am going to copy it. And I'm going to multiply it by, as we just did, x over 2x minus x is x, x plus 1. There is a new denominator, but it happens that it's the same thing. I already have the restriction. There is no additional restriction to add, like we had before. When I multiply, all I get is this. And that's final. Any questions on this problem? Any questions on this problem? Are we okay with this? Anyone? Yes? No? Please talk to me.
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. The next one is 84. Again, this looks difficult. It's not. Good. So we start with the denominator. Don't look anywhere else. I need to find the least common denominator here. But of course I have to copy the rest. I covered it up because I don't want you to look at it and give it too much thought. But I need the least common denominator here, which is
1 minus x.
Of course, there is only one denominator, which is 1 minus x. This needs a 1 minus x, of course, because it doesn't have a denominator, it's 1. So 1 minus x minus 1. 1 minus x minus 1. Of course, I have to write that x does not equal 1. Remember, 1 is always a fraction. It's 1 over 1. So I copy the 1 in front. Minus 1 over 1 I don't have to write. I will flip this as 1 minus x divided by negative x. Is this okay so far? Are we okay?
Could you explain it again?
Yes. So it's clear that we have 1 minus x as a denominator, correct?
Yes.
Then I have to write 1 minus x minus 1. Y minus 1 is 0.
Okay.
The numerator is 1 over 1. But there is no point in writing 1 over 1. I only have to flip y minus x over negative x.
Oh, I got it now. Thank you.
If it were anything else, I would have used it in front. I would have put it in front. But it's 1 over 1.
Okay.
It's not going to change. Sure, it's not going to change anything. Now I have to be careful. I have to add another restriction. And now, a minus in front with a minus in the denominator will change into plus. 1 plus 1 minus x over x. I am allergic to negative denominators. So I can distribute this up here or distribute it here, not to both. And I prefer to distribute it here. And I change it like this. Now I need the least common denominator again, which is
that distributing necessary?
I'm sorry?
Is the distributing necessary? Or can I just leave
I
it?
don't want negative denominators. I wouldn't say it's absolutely necessary. It makes your life easier. Very good question. Very good question. Good. Next step. What is the least common denominator? Right, there is only 1. So then we multiply the top by x. So it's x plus 1 minus x. These two go away. Do not attempt to simplify in a sum. Do not attempt to simplify in a sum. That would be a terrible mistake. And the final answer is 1 over x. It's 1 over x only in these conditions. If these conditions are not fulfilled, the answer is not 1 over x, but undefined. So all the simplification is 1 over x only if x is never 0 or 1. That's why restrictions are so important. And that's why I'm recording all this for you to go back and rewatch it and do it again on your own. I really hope so. Okay, any questions on this problem? Let's take a moment and think about it. And let me know if you have questions. Any questions? Moving on. I'm waiting for a sign from you, please. Moving on.
Yeah.
Okay. We have 3 more expressions here. They're all very important for calculus. Very important. So here's one, that's 74. 1 divided by h, and then 1 over x plus h squared minus 1 over x squared. Good. We need to find the least common denominator in brackets. Can anyone give us the least common denominator so we can subtract these fractions? Without the least common denominator, we cannot continue. Anyone? Who would like to help in finding the least common denominator?
Would it be x squared? Like if you factor out the x plus h, then you'll have an x squared, and you factor out the x squared. Would that work?
No, because these are 2 separate factors.
Okay.
X plus h, it's a trinomial because it's squared. And you cannot factor anything. They're already factored.
Is it x squared and then parentheses x plus h squared as well?
Of course. Thank you so much, 10. So whenever we have two factors that have nothing in common, here's an example. 1/2 plus 1/3. 2 and 3 have nothing in common. This is similar here. This and this have absolutely nothing in common, meaning they don't have factors in common. These they don't have factors in common. Therefore, the denominator is the product of the two. When they have no common factors, the least common denominator is the product of the two. And of course, you're going to say this is x squared and this is x plus h, everything squared. Because this was multiplied by x squared, I have to do the same thing to the top. This quantity was multiplied by x plus h, everything squared. I have to do the same thing to the top. Otherwise, I change the value of the function, of the expression. So then the numerator is x squared minus how many terms we write for this, and we have to make sure that we change all signs to all terms. How many terms we have when we square x plus h?
You'll have 3 terms.
Thank you so much. Can anyone give us those 3 terms? Anyone?
Would it be x squared plus?
You're correct. Yeah, I should put that plus, but I'm distributing it already. You're correct. There is no mistake there.
Okay, plus 2xh
Very good.
plus x squared.
You mean h squared. Excellent. So the reason why I already changed the signs is because I was distributing. So indeed, this quantity is x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. Absolutely. But we distributed already the negative sign to this, the negative sign to this, the negative sign to this. That's why all of them have a negative in front. These two will go away. Now, can anyone give us the factored, what common factor will you factor from negative 2xh minus h squared? And please also factor the negative sign. From 2xh minus h squared, what will I factor out with the negative sign, as we discussed? Descending order, greatest. Excellent. What is left in parentheses? Excellent. Thank you. Don't be afraid to be wrong. You don't know how many times I was wrong in my life. Okay, go ahead.
2x plus h.
2x plus h. Now look carefully. Yes, of course, h cannot be 0, x cannot be 0, x plus h cannot be 0, of course, the whole thing. What will we do next? Look carefully and say, you can do this. Without the whatever. I'm trying to be funny. So what can we do here? Give it a shot, please.
You cancel out the h's.
Very good. 1 and 1. Negative in front. Negative over positive is negative. We have 2x plus h in the numerator. And we have x squared, x plus h, everything squared. And this is done. Don't attempt anything. You cannot simplify factors with pieces of terms. This is it, carved in stone. Any questions on this problem? Okay, let's take a moment, absorb this, and see if you have any questions, please. Again, that's why I'm recording, because you may or may not have questions right now, but when you watch it again, review it again, you may. Anyone? With your permission, moving on? Is that a yes? Anybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So we have two more here. Let's work on both. They're both important. Okay, that's my page 5. Page 5. Where am I? Am I correct here? Yes. Okay, so we have, this is 100. The square root of x squared plus 1 minus x in front. You'll see in calculus where this is coming from. 2, the square root of x squared plus 1, and everything divided by x squared plus 1. Okay. Now, I look at this piece, there is nothing I can do here. But I look at this piece, and I realize that there is something that I can do here before I even find the least common denominator, because I have to find the least common denominator. I need one fraction, not a subtraction of two quantities. Is there something that you would recommend? Do right here. Anyone?
Take away the 2.
Of course. 2 is a factor, 2 is a factor. Done. Excellent. I am going to write it again and also find the least common denominator. What is the least common denominator? Well, I know you're going to say the square root of x squared plus 1 because there is only one denominator. There is nothing else. So this is x squared plus 1. This quantity obviously will be negative x squared. There is no discussion there. But this is over 1. It doesn't have a denominator. So if I multiply 1 by this, I have to multiply the numerator by the same quantity. But what do we know about the square root of x squared plus 1 times the square root of x squared plus 1? What do we get? The square root of x squared plus 1 times the square root of x squared plus 1. What do we get?
Shouldn't that just be like squared, since we are multiplying both of them?
Exactly. And what do we get? Exactly.
X squared plus 1.
Exactly. These two will go away. This is obviously over 1. Everything is over 1. How do I divide two fractions? I copy the first fraction and I multiply by the multiplicative inverse of the other one. And this is it. I do not prefer, or we normally don't write anything following a radical. So we put this quantity in front of the radical. So x squared plus 1, the square root of x squared plus 1. These look difficult expressions. They are cumbersome, and they are 100% required for calculus.